はい、皆さんこんにちは、オグマです。忘れられた都市、前回の続きをやっていきたいと思います。前回ちょっとなんかいろいろねやったんですが、ちょっとね今またゲームを入れ直したらね、なんかこのヘラクレスの試練がちょっとねこの哲学者に助けを求めるのがいいかもしれないっていうのが出てるんで、ちょっとこちらを哲学者ちょっと会いに行ってみましょうか。はい、じゃあちょっと行きましょう。そうそう、いますね。はいはい。いたので、ちょっと話しかけてみましょう。はいはい。はい、ちょっとね、それは、そう、この会話は前しましたよと。私は時の螺旋に捕まっている。はい、そう、これね、あなたなら黄金律をやめさせるために冥界の神をどう説得する？
I assume you're asking me this as some kind of amusing hypothetical?
はい、いや、彼に会ったが説得することができなかった。また試してみるつもりだ。
Extraordinary. Then let me see if I can help you. I suppose first I'd want to gather information. I'd want to know about his reasons for imposing the golden rule and what he considers a sin. If I could expose some internal inconsistency in his reasoning, some degree of hypocrisy,I might be able to compel him to change his position. But as a philosopher, the saddest truth I ever learned is that all but the most enlightened opponents are more easily swayed by appeals to emotion than by reason. So the easiest path would be to find his emotional susceptibility and exploit it. If he was vain, I would try to flatter him. If he was merciful,I would try to evoke pity. As a last resort, I might figure out what he fears losing above all else, and if I could, threaten to take it away. Though, of course, that could easily go awry. Now, go quickly while my words are still fresh in your memory.
なるほど。ちょっと難しそうですけど、OK、分かった。ちょっとじゃあ行くか。なるほどね。OK。まあ、情に訴えたりするのも大事かもしれないね。OK。さあ来ましたね。さあ今度は説得うまくいくでしょうかね。そう、前回冠を取るっていうのが果たして私冠取れたのかどうなんですか？もうダメか。はい。ちょっと飛ばしますね。はい。飛ばして黄金律のことをちょっとどこだ？この辺かな？これだね。あなたは何を罪だとみなしている？これだね。はい。道徳ね。はい。ちょっとこの飛ばしていって、はい。そうだな。あなただって維持し続けることはできなかっただろう？あら、まずいか。もう一回飛ばして、ちょっと私はこれまでずっとそういう言い方をしてきた。ダメか。ちょっと待って。やっぱこれは最初はいいんだな。その原則を守ることはしていいことを簡単じゃない。これはいいんだ。あら、違う。これかな。あなたはここで非道な行為が行われてもそれを罪とみなさないこともあるようだ。なぜそれらを許すのか。これかな。さあ、これなんだろうな。まあ、自殺やってみる？
Therefore, it cannot be said that one who commits suicide has done anything unto others.
なんだろう、それは法を極めて文字通りに解釈したもののように思える。
Applying this rule always requires us to interpret the meaning of the words. A literal interpretation helps to minimize the ambiguities of your primitive language.
私たちの使う言葉が曖昧に満ちているのなら、規則は本質的に主観的で信憑性のないものなのではないか？
Supposing you're right, then my law has been broken.
ああ、それはちょっと違うな。これはダメか。こうなっちゃったらダメかな。まあ気にしないでほしいと。
Now tell me, what other sins do you believe I have overlooked?
じゃあ詐欺。
Ah, the tavern keeper.
はいはい。
Yes. How is that inconsistent with the rule?
彼女本人だって脱出する手段を買うつもりで、相手からヘムロックを売られたら困るはずだ。
I disagree. Having watched that tavern keeper, that is precisely what she would expect from others. She would view it as a game, one she intends to win.
彼女が何を期待しているかわからないはず。それはただの憶測に過ぎない。
Applying this rule always requires speculation to some degree. It requires us to ask what another person would want if they found themselves in another situation.
これもやってみるか。それは本質的な主観であってはならない。
Not if we're wise enough to know the mind of man.
では他の人間の考えがわかるのかと。
Supposing you're right, then my
ダメか。こうなっちゃダメですね。あとは借金。
You speak of the money lender. How is that inconsistent with the rule?
彼本人だって借金の抵当として30年の労働契約を結ばれることを望みはしないだろう。
And he would never have signed a contract pledging his labor for 30 years. All he did was enforce the terms of a contract signed voluntarily by others.
奴隷のような形で借金による拘束を行うことは道義に反するものだ。私の時代では国際法で違法とされている。
Ignoring your irritating sense of moral superiority. This is interesting.
お、来たか？
I'm curious. How do people escape poverty?
家を買うために、そして場所によっては教育を施すためにローンを組むというのが通例になっている。
I see. And how long might it take such a person to repay their debt?
結構かかるけどね。それは人による。通常は数十年あるいは生涯をかけて。
I fail to see how your system of loans is significantly different to a debt bondsman signing
いや、結構違うと思うけどな。それとことは違う。
Supposing you're right, then my law has been broken,
ダメ。
and I should turn you all to gold immediately. Is that what you want?
ダメだな、ちょっと。オッケーオッケー。じゃあ黄金像に対しての実験。
The midwife and the palace, yes. How is that inconsistent with the rule?
彼女自身が黄金漬けになっていたら自分が実験台になりたいとは思わなかっただろう。
The rule is do unto others, meaning other people. Those statues are something else now. Bloodless shadows, mere shapes of their former selves. They are forsaken. What happens to them is no concern of mine.
これは一緒かな。なるほどでいいか。
Now tell me,
オ
what
ッ
other
ケーオ
sin?
ッケー。そしたらこれか。もう十分だ。あなたの道徳感がいかに当てにならず主観的なものかが分かった。あなたは善悪の判断については人間よりも劣っているようだ。ここまで言うか。
Do you honestly think you could do better?
しかしこれこそ私の言いたいことだ。善と悪の判断を完璧にできる存在はいないのだから、このような権力を持たせてはいけないのだ。あなたは暴君になってしまった。ここまで言う？ここまで言うか？ちょっとやってみよ
I should strike you
う。うわー、しまった。これはもしそうしたら、それは私の主張を証明することになる。
Now, did you have any other questions?
話が進んだな。ちょっと待って他何がある？なんだろう。もう聞くことはないでいいのかな。
Good. Then now it is time for your
はい。
reckoning. Only
お、なんだ？
it seems something is wrong. It has long been within my power to see into the hearts of mortals and weigh their deeds in life. But when I peer into you, I see only a blank slate, as if you did not exist until you appeared in this city. How is this possible? Carol, where did you find this one?
I do not remember ferrying you. How did you come here?
そうだな。私は未来から来た。
If that is true, then I sense the intervention of someone powerful.
How did you come to be in this time, mortal? Who brought you here?
ちょっと言わないでって言われてるな。ちょっと待って、あなたなら分かると思っていたが。
I do not know. My kin departed long ago, and preserved
言っちゃいけない
for
んだよね。
years.
なんだ。どうするこれは。どうやらあなたはここで起きていることの全てを知っているわけではないようだ。どっちだこれは。ちょっと上でいこうか。冥界の神なのにあなたには分からないのかと。
Tread lightly.
ちょっとよくなかったか。
Enough of this. It seems I will need to put your reckoning on hold for now. But answer this. Why have you come here? What is it you seek?
そうだな。黄金律を終わらせてほしい。
Your hubris is
お、
amusing.
話進んだぞ。
Allow you to make your case. But I warn you, if you anger me or waste my time with lies or wrong-headed arguments,
うわあ、ここ選択難しそうだな。
death here. So, tell me, why should I put an end to the so-called golden rule?
どうしよう。これを愛する人のためにやっているのならプロセルピナはあなたを愛していないことを知った方がいい。なぜ私たちに罪のない生き方を望むのか。あなた自身それができていないようだが、黄金律の存在がこの町を堕落させている。このままでは垣に勝つことは決してない。どうしようこれ。これ言っていいかな。どうしよう難しいな。これやってみるか。ちょっとこれ言って大丈夫かな。はい。言わないで。ごめんなさい。
I see what you are doing. You are trying to undermine the one thing keeping me anchored here.
言わないでって言われた。
You are playing a dangerous game.
そうだな。言わないでだから申し訳ない。失言だった。
You have no idea how close you just came to
はい、すいません。
eternal torment, mortal. You will need to do better than that.
はい、すいませんでした。はい、じゃあこっちですね。なぜ私たちに罪のない生き方を望むのか。あなた自身それができていないようだが。いや、こっちがいいかな。黄金律の存在がこの町を堕落させている。このままでは鍵に勝つことはできないよと。
How so? And be specific. You have made a grave allegation, and I expect you to back it up.
どうしよう。ちょっと待って。でもこれじゃないかな。やっぱり人の命を救う薬の値段を釣り上げているのは無理やり奪える人がいないってことだよね。盗んじゃうとね、黄金律になっちゃうから、これじゃないかな。
True. I have witnessed him doing that.
全部いくのか。全部いいのかな。あとはこれか。アイウレリアは人々の脱出したいという願望につけ込んでヘムロックを売ってる。
I admit,
オッ
I
ケーオ
have
ッケーオッケ
grown
ー。いいよ。
disturbed watching them.
全部当てはまるのか。これもマレオラス、この人じゃない。
His cruelty does seem to grow greater by the
はいはいはい。結局全員か。ルフィウスは怯えすぎて疑心暗鬼になり、バージルの性的思考にさえ不安を感じている。
He is a volatile
うん
and。
結局
confused
全部か。 OK。
If you're right, my involvement has corrupted the very thing I sought to observe impartially. But if I were to accept that, are you telling me these humans could coexist peacefully, without theft or violence, without my law?
いや、そういうわけではないんだな。人間は社会を正しい方向に導く方便として例外的に武力を行使できる必要がある。例外的に。いや、これ言っちゃっていいんだろうか。法ってでもこういうことだったりするんだよね。
How so?
私たちは悪行を抑止し、犯罪者を無力化し、制圧者を引き下ろすために暴力を用いる。なんか暴力っていうのは嫌なんだけど、法なんだけどね。いいや。
And how is that working for you?
私がもともと言った2000年後の未来ではそれがうまく機能している。平均して寿命は伸び、犯罪率は低下している。
So you say, and yet your world is still
そうなんだけど。
perfect.
どっちかな、少しずつ良くなっている、いつか理想に到達できるだろう。我々の世界は常に不完全だ。だから理想郷を作ろうとするために必要となる力を用いれば、それはやがて例外なく暴君を生み出すことになる。まあちょっと上の方がいいかな。うん。
Your words are breathtakingly naive.
嘘。
Reject your argument.
ダメですか。これもう一回やるな。ち
How
ょっ
so?
と待って。ダメか。そしたらなぜ私たちに罪のない生き方を望むのか。あなた自身それができていないようだが。
That is a very serious accusation, mortal. What sin have I committed? What evidence do you have to support it?
あなたはプロセピナを連れ去ってここに閉じ込めたんじゃないのか。あなたは町の人たちを彼らの意思を無視して閉じ込めている。あなたはごく些細な罪しか犯していないものや全く罪を犯していないものなど数多くのものに過酷な罰を与えている。これ全部そうじゃないかな。これも全部やる感じかな。とりあえずプロセピナはプロセルピナ。
I am well aware of the story told by the Greeks and Romans of my so-called abduction. It is entirely unfair. My love was dying, and I intervened the only way I could to save her life. What would you have done?
でもプロセルピナは自ら死を選んだのでは？
It was an act of rebellion against the others. She knew I would have to act to save her, and I did because I loved her. I love her still. Accordingly, I rejected her.
ダメか。じゃあこれだな。町の人たちを苦しめてると。町の人たちを彼らの意思を無視して閉じ込めてる。
These people were all dead when my servant found them. I gave them a second chance at life. Would you prefer to have simply ceased to exist?
まあそれは最もない言い分だな。
Accordingly, I rejected
ダメか。難しい。じゃあこれいこうかね。ごく些細な罪しか犯していないものや全く罪を犯していないものなど数多くのものに過酷な罰を与える。全く罪を犯してないっていうのはちょっとわからないけどやってみよう。
Every one of those people was guilty of failing to ensure their peers lived virtuously. They failed collectively, and so they were punished collectively. The Romans understand this, as did the Greeks before them.
そうだな。私がもともといた場所では集団的懲罰は最も悪質な犯罪の一つとみなされている。もしあなたが私の立場なら他人の罪のせいで罰を受けたいとは思わないだろう。まあちょっと上の方がいいかな。ダメ。ダメですか。でもいけるかまた。はい。
But I'm a god, and you are a mortal. Why would you expect me to treat you as I treat my own kind? You are not a peer. You are not a respected equal. Let me ask you this. Do you treat insects as you wish to be treated? Do you care for their well-being as you would your fellow man? Do you ensure they have food and shelter and protection from predators? Do you give them rights?
いいえ。
Of course not. Because that would be absurd, just as it would be absurd for me to treat your kind as equals.
なるほど。どうしてろう。あなたが愛している相手は人間なのだから、あなたの種族と私の種族にそれほど違いはないだろう。
My love for her does not mean I am not superior, now that she is mortal.
どういうことだ？あなたの種族が私たちを満たす理由は、傲慢な言い方であなたが思っているほど人間と変わらないのかもしれない。ちょっと理由を聞いてみようか。
Where to begin? Our lifespans exceed yours by thousands of years, in which time we accumulate vast wisdom and a mastery of technology you cannot begin to imagine.
あなたは不死ではないのか？
It would be most unwise to get ideas about
いや、攻撃するわけじゃなくて質問です。まあいいや。知恵と技術があればなぜ上に立てるのか。
Because that is the source of our power over you.
つまりあなたは私たちより力を持っているから私たちを公園に扱う義務を感じないと。
You could say
that. これはローマのストア派の言葉は上のものに期待するところを下のものに施すべしだったか。
My kin have no superiors.
そうだな。しかしジュピターが王であると言っていた一族の中には上下があるということだ。
That is true. Go on.
つまりあなたはあなたがジュピターに望むことを人間に与えようとしているのか。
Make your point.
難しいな。大丈夫か。要は自分の描く道徳律を守れないのであればどうして人間にそれを求められるのかと。
Let me ponder that
来た。
for a moment. If you are right, then it would follow that all this time I have been in the wrong. But no. The very thought of it grieves me. How can I accept your argument when doing so would make me a tyrant and a monster?
そうだな。それが真実だ。あなたは残虐な行為を働いた。その事実をあなたは耐えなければならない。あなたは怪物ではない。むしろ人間だ。ただ過ちを犯しただけだ。いやー、どうしようこれ。難しい。ちょっと下にするか。怪物じゃないよと。
Wait. What? What are you saying?
人間は過ちを犯す。これは私たちの本質だ。人間にはそもそも罪を犯す傾向がある。遅かれ早かれみんなやってしまうんだ。いや、上の方がいいかな。
You have spoken eloquently. And yet, if what you say is true, it follows that my wager was fatally flawed from the beginning. But that would mean Jupiter, Preservator's father, who knew more about you than anyone, proposed a wager I could never win. Why would he do that?
どうしよう。彼も過ちを犯したのが、これもあるかもしれない。プロセルピナはあなたから解放するためにあなたに火器を放棄させたのかったのかもしれない。おそらく彼はあなたに脅威を感じており、エリュシオンの地で自分を脅かす存在になってほしくなかったのではないか。おそらくあなたの一族でさえもあなたを必要としていなかったから置き去りに。いや、どうしようかな。ちょっとここは尊重してあげたいところではあるな。どうしよう。どうしよう。ちょっとこれかこれなんだよな、私の中で。どうしよう。ちょっとこれやってみるか。プロセルピナ。いやー、どうしよう。むずい。どうしよう。これ参ったな。まあちょっとこれにしてみるか。おそらく彼はあなたに脅威を感じていたと。はい。
Perhaps. But if that was so, surely I would have sensed his deception. How could I have been so blind for so long?
そうだな。あなたたちは私たちよりも優れているわけではない。権力の亡者の怪物だ。おそらくあなたたちが人間の形を取った時、あなたたちは人間の愚かなところも併せ持ったのだろう。おそらくあなたはプロセルピナの愛するあまり、これだ。
Your words sting me, mortal.
よし、来た。
Perhaps it is what I deserve. As difficult as this is to admit, I have suspected as much for a long time now. And I cannot deny it any longer. I've been so fixated on taking my beloved to Elysium that every time one of you sinned, it wore away my hope of being with her again. In time, I began to despise your kind for making her believe that you could ever be better than you are. But my rage was not born of malice. Quite the opposite. Everything I have done, I did because I loved her. Who knew this empathy of yours, which you celebrate so much, could have such a dark underside? This has gone on too long. It is time for me to let go of this form, of her, of all of you. But know this. If I abandon the wager and leave for Elysium, neither she nor your kind may ever ascend.
そうだな。私たちはただ元の世界に戻りたいだけだ。
Very well. I will have Charon make arrangements to ferry the others. But as for you, be aware you will be separated from the rest.
なぜ？
Once this exodus begins, the events that brought you to this moment will never have taken place, and you will have created a paradox. What will become of you is difficult to predict, but that is the risk you have taken by interfering in the natural flow of time. Now, are you ready?
わかりました。
Farewell, mortal.
おう。 お、戻った。あると思います。はい、じゃあ行きましょうか。いやちょっとさあさあ。
Oh. Hi there. Gave me a bit of a fright. Thought I was in here alone. I'm Al.
アルワース、私はあなたを探しに来たんだ。
Well, here I am. I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
私の青熊だ。私の青熊だ。私が誰なのか分かるといいが。
Know who you are? I barely remember how I got here myself. Oh, did that lady in the forest send you in here after me? I guess I lost track of time, learning about the history of this place, and it is extraordinary. I'm fairly certain you and I are the first people to set foot in this city for about 2,000 years. Fortunately for us, the last person in here was a Roman man named Galerius, who inscribed an account into a tablet. Apparently, there was a community of 20-something people trapped in here, and living in fear of a curse they called the Golden Rule. They believed that if even one person sinned, an unknown god would cast them all into gold, like the 1,000 people who'd lived here before them. Then, one day, just as Galerius had finished praying for a good harvest at the shrine of Proserpina, an oracle appeared and told him how to solve the ills of the city, like saving the life of a dying woman, preventing the suicide of a man in debt bondage, freeing a falsely accused prisoner, foiling an assassination attempt, and so on. Meanwhile, the oracle walked up to the temple of the mysterious god, this one right here, and demanded an audience. And the doors just opened up to him. Nobody knows what went on in there, but Galerius wrote the oracle must have been more persuasive than Odysseus, because the next thing he knew, the ground shook, and the voice of that god rang out over the city. The many have suffered long enough. Unfortunately, Galerius' account just sort of stops after that, leaving a lot of questions unanswered. What became of him, and the other people who lived here? What happened to all the golden statues? And did this mysterious oracle single-handedly undo the curse that had terrorized people for hundreds of years?
まあ一応私のことなんだけど、そのローマ人の話は非現実的だな、ぶっ飛んだ話だ。
I don't know, it reads like an earnest account to me. Anyway, I think I found a way out through the aqueduct that brought water into the city. Follow me.
追いかけるよ。はい、じゃあ行きましょうか。お、はい。川へ戻る。はい、OK。あれは私だったって言った方がいいのかな、よかったのかなまあわかんないけど、まあいいや。お、
I'm gonna pause here for a moment and make sure nobody else has ever lured into this temple.
いい考えだ。
You go on ahead, and I'll be there soon.
はい。こっちか。はい。さあ、もう特に何もないかな、道中は。よし、はいはい。あ、カレン、カロン、どっち？
You're back,
あ、カロンか。
but you're alone. Does that mean you didn't find out?
彼を見つけた。もうすぐグラスだ。
Ah, what a relief. Thank you so much. I was beginning to think you'd both become trapped in there. Why don't you tell me what you discovered while we wait?
あなたが普通の人じゃないと分かった。2000年前の顔であったよと。はい。
Ah, I see.
おお。
I thought you might. Well, now you know. I suppose you have questions.
あなたは本当何者だ。
You can just call me Carolyn, if you like. I am sorry I was not completely honest with you when we first met. I do not enjoy deceiving people. Believe me, I do not. But I have learned, from 5,000 years of experience, that most people find comfort in familiarity, in gradual change, and coming to see the truth in their own time.
それはどんな真実なのか。
That you died, of course. You were dead when I brought you here. My role, as the servant of the god of the underworld, has always been to assist the chosen to cross the threshold from the land of the living to the land of the dead.
うん。私はどうやって死んだ？
Usually, when people do not remember how they died, it is because they suffered a terrible trauma. Most souls would rather not remember. Ask yourself honestly, do you really want to know?
うん、知りたい。
As you wish.
殺された。
You were exploring an old tomb when you discovered a cache of forgotten relics, including 2 silver coins of ancient origin. Unfortunately, as you emerged into daylight, you were set upon by 2 thieves. A nearby hiker saw the scuffle break out and leapt to your aid, trying to help you recover your bounty. You both fought bravely, but your assailants were armed, and you were not. There was nothing you or your ally could have done. He died instantly at the scene, and you followed a few hours later. That man's name was Al Worth. You were each in possession of a sacred coin, called Karen's Opal by some. And so it was my duty to bring you here.
うん。プルートはあると私が持っていたコインが最後のものだと言っていた。一体これはどういう意味だ？そういえば2枚だけなんかね、どうにもできなかったみたいなこと言ってたよね、そういえばね。
It means I am now bereft of purpose. There is nobody else to ferry here. Nobody to keep you company. After 5,000 years, the underworld has finally run its course.
うん。これらのコインはそれほど特別なものなのか？
Perhaps you have heard the tales of the Greeks and Romans burying their dead with a coin in their mouths to pay the ferryman for passage across the river. Well, those stories contained a seed of truth, but not any coin would do. A long time ago, my master created 1,000 silver coins and had me distribute them across the world. My orders were simple. Whenever a person died in possession of a coin, I was to locate them and ferry them here.
うん。で、確かにプルートは私のコインが現存する最後のものだと言ってた。それはあなたにとってどんな意味がある？
It means I am now bereft of purpose. There is nobody else to ferry here. Nobody to keep you company. After 5,000 years, the underworld has finally run its course.
うん。はい。私たちを現世に戻してくれますか？
I see no point in keeping you here. But I have to ask one thing. That you keep this to yourself.
Look! Here comes Al
あ
now. Al! It's so good to see you. You were gone so long I thought I'd never see you again.
Kinda lost track of time in there. You wouldn't believe what we found. The ruins of a long-forgotten city. And there was a tablet describing an oracle who confronted a god and undid an ancient curse.
Sounds like quite a story. And I look forward to hearing all about it. But you two look exhausted. Why don't you hop in my boat and rest while I ferry you back to civilization?
Sounds good to me.
And you? Are you ready to go home?
はい、もちろんだ。1年後。お、あ、とりあえずまっすぐ行けばいいか？あれあるかな？
Hey, you made it. It's great to see you again. I read your book, and what the critics said about it. I guess they weren't ready for your theories about the underworld. Anyway, after everything you've been through, I thought you might appreciate some good news. So after we got back to the real world, I started doing some research into the people mentioned in Galerius's tablet, and I found something strange. I'm sorry I've been so cryptic. I've been dying to tell you, I just really wanted you to see this for yourself. Why don't you head on down there? I'll catch up with you at the other end.
はい。